Hey folks, welcome to the first ever one-on-one chat with Jamie here, doing the interviews as part of the NAVSCAR uh, Pro Series Racing League. Tonight we're just going to take a few moments. We're going to interview David Howard Jr. How's it going tonight?
It's going awesome, man. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get some stats out of the way. So in case people don't know you as well as maybe some of the folks that are watching the broadcast on a regular basis, but this season alone, you've got. You're gonna have to excuse me here because I'm looking at these stats over here on this other monitor. But um, you got three top fives. You've already won a pole, um, and five top tens. So you're doing good in that regard. I mean, the season's just started. Your average start is probably about 16th position, but you're finishing a little bit better than that in 12th. So you started out the season strong. You had a good finish there at Daytona. Followed it up again at Atlanta. You ran third at Daytona and fourth in Atlanta, and then you kind of hit a little speed bump there when we got to Las Vegas and Phoenix, still strong. Had a top 10 finish, but kind of fell out of the outside of the top 10 around Phoenix. So, from your perspective, how has the season been going for you?
Basically, like you described it, Jamie, pretty much started out pretty strong, but then kind of started getting, just managing top tens, a couple of races there, and then then we had electronic troubles. I kept having my screens black out on me, and two races in a row. One you mentioned, I got the pole, was Martinsville. I was really surprised to get the pole there, but felt like that was one of my stronger tracks and put in a lot of time there, and to have screen issues take you out of that race, and then Texas after that race got two terrible finishes. It's disheartening. We're really looking for a turnaround in our season, and was really looking forward to Talladega last night before we got caught up in a wreck as a turning point for sure.
Yeah, you mentioned Martinsville. You were on the pole there, like you had mentioned. You had technical difficulties. You ended up 37th. You came right back at Texas and finished 27th. But then the very next race at Bristol, I mean, you had a really good race there. You qualified ninth and you finished seventh. I mean, top 10 finish. So I mean, you kind of put that in the back seat, so to speak, and you headed to Richmond and then Talladega. And so, we're just fresh off the race at Talladega, and that didn't go exactly the way you wanted. You still pulled out a 11th place finish. Could have been a lot worse, considering the field of 34, 35 cars. So,
Hmm.
and we got, I would say you got some momentum going into Kansas.
Yeah, absolutely, Jamie, and that's the way we feel. And I got to also mention at the time we started having the screen issues at Martinsville, where we got 37th, and then, like you said, followed it up at Texas, my other favorite track, with 27th because of screen issues there. We thought we had them cleared up, and obviously had to quit out before we wrecked somebody else's night. But along those times that started happening, I also brought on a human crew chief. My uncle came on, bought all the tracks, really dedicated himself to my race team, and us doing well. And boy, it was sure kicking the old rear to to be finishing that bad and having technical difficulties and having to explain to him, man, we sorry we couldn't get the finish. And then Richmond's one of my worst tracks, right there with New Hampshire, so I didn't expect to do well there. Glad we got out of there, I think, with 11th, I believe. You may be able to check that out for me. But and then Talladega, man, that's a track that I always seem to be able to either win or push somebody to a win. Always right there. And last night we got caught up in somebody else's mess and put us two laps down. And man, we showed our perseverance. My uncle, my crew chief, stayed after me. Said, David, you need to get back out there, get these two laps back, man, get the best finish you can, push one of your insanely fast motorsports teammates to a win if it takes that. And he was right. He pumped me back up, and we came out of there. And when we wrecked, we were 32nd, 33rd ish, two laps down. And because of our tenacity and staying after it, we wind up with 11th place finish. So, even though it's 11th place, I'm still proud of that just because of the way, he put something forward there to really make me dig.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe you can speak a little bit about that, bringing in a real spotter versus using the iRacing spotter. I've personally used one before too. Actually, Mike Ferris actually spotted me in some of the red light races before in the past, and I can tell you, um, having a real spotter, uh, from my perspective, gave me a couple advantages. One, uh, they let me know what other lines guys were running, and I was able to adjust my line accordingly. They helped me with the points on the track on when to turn in, when to back off, or how to enter and exit the corners. And then lastly, and you kind of touched on it a little bit, they add that human component to it where they're able to say, hey, you might want to. I know I know it didn't go your way. The race isn't over. We got plenty of laps left. Let's get our heads back in the game and get back out there and start digging. Can you speak a little bit to that?
Yeah, it's big time. It's something that the iRacing can't give you. The iRacing can give you car inside, car outside, three wide, but they can't tell you, hey man, the night before we raced last night at Talladega, I actually won the race. Well, I won it because he would tell me, okay, David, that outside line has ganged up. They're coming. They're coming on the straightaway. You're going to have to get up and block them. And that's something the iRacing spotter don't do until they're at your quarter panel and he says inside.
Yeah.
And my uncle obviously told me three cars back, hey, they're ganging up, they're getting a good run. You better get ready to get up there and block them. Don't just stay on the bottom. They're going to pass you. So it helped me to win that night.
So was controlling the outside line, was that an option for you last night? I know you. I'm not sure if, I don't believe you. No, you didn't lead any laps last night at Talladega, but it was one of the things that we were talking about in the broadcast, where just like you see in real life in the NASCAR series, in Sprint Cup series, Dale Jr. is obviously one to do it all the time. He'll control that line. He'll control the outside line. He'll run the middle. He'll run the low. He'll run the high, just depending on what line's got momentum. Were you seeing that at all last night?
Uh, I, if you get the outside line really really organized, it's the place to be. There's no doubt about that, Jamie. It's really weird though because early on in the race, everybody's so cautious, as we should be, that outside line's not really strong. You only see two or three guys, stragglers, what we call them, that'll
Yeah.
get out there and they're just anxious and they want to see racing. But the guys that want to win the race obviously are going to be a little bit more easy, or at least most of them, I think. And but once that outside line late in the going, you get down to 25 to go in a race like that. That outside line is the place to be. So to answer your question, if I could have got out front, I would have been blocking, as you see Dale Jr. do.
Hmm.
My favorite driver. I would have been blocking the outside on the straightaway and the inside in the corner, because that's where they get the momentum. The outside line gets you on that straightaway, and the inside line comes like a freight train in the middle of the corner. So
Yeah.
you,
Absolutely.
you kind of want to mock what you see on Sunday.
Absolutely. So so because we're talking about Talladega, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here, and I got
All right.
two different videos for you. One, and it's probably not an incident that you wanna take a look at, but let's take a look. Give me 1 second.
That's all right, man. I'm an open book.
All right. So you should be able to see my screen here. We're running
Yes,
at
sir.
Talladega, and we got you about in the middle of the screen. I'm not sure. Can you see my mouse on the screen?
No, sir.
But do you see your car?
Yes, sir.
Mid pack. All right. Let's take it as we're going into turn one. We got some cars there, and they get into each other. And the 917, you're the driver of the 917. You go for a ride there. Uh,
Yeah.
what? And before you respond, I'll give you just one more. Let's take it from the cockpit. Let's ride along with you here.
All right.
So all right. So here you're driving. You're behind Will Long in that 11 car. You got a couple cars that are going in front of you, and the next thing you know, you're going around. What's going through your
Okay,
mind
Jamie.
here?
So let me tell you, we just talked about human spotter. Now let me tell you, my uncle Terry Isbell is my crew chief slash spotter, and he told me this was coming. He said, "Look," he said, "the 82. No offense to Mike Abbott, I love the guy." He said he's getting a little impatient. He said he's trying to force it three wide on you. And I said, okay. I said, well, I'm going to back out. And if you could hear, everybody could hear my audio in that in car there. I don't know if they can, but I
Hmm.
let out. And boy, sure enough, soon as I let out, man, they wrecked, and there was nowhere to go. But that's racing.
Yeah.
You can't fault Mike. He's trying to go somewhere. And that's just part of it, man. Guys are going to get together, and it's going to ruin other guys' night, and we'll move on. We'll win the next one, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me just share one more video clip with you, and
All right.
I think this one's going to be a little bit more in your wheelhouse. I'm going to kind of rewind the clock. I'm going to bring it back. I'm going to say to I believe this is Atlanta, and let me just get this video started here a second. So this is you at Atlanta coming out of turn four. You got the 946 just to the outside, John Frisching Jr. Just behind you. So kind of just cruising along. This track is really in your wheelhouse. You placed fourth here, real strong finish. You seem to really be dominant at some of these mile and a half tracks, and just can you kind of speak to you know what's your comfort level at Atlanta? I mean, what's your is that like I said, is that in your wheelhouse?
Yeah, yeah, I think the mile and a halfs, and here recently the short tracks have really come around for me. Richmond, not so much, but Bristol I did well. In Martinsville, obviously we got the pole, and if it wouldn't have been for the screen problems, I feel like we could have had a top five. I don't know if anybody can touch Calvin Allison, man. I really need to become friends with him and get a lot of tips from him. So if you're out there, Calvin, help me out, brother. But yeah, I've got to get a little better on the medium tracks, the New Hampshires, I don't know. I got some tracks coming in my wheelhouse here though that hopefully with a lot of practice. That's the thing. I'm one of them guys that I like to put in the time. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
when you do get wrecked out, it does bum you out like last night because I put in 5 hours a time. But man, these tracks coming up, I feel good about because most of them, Kansas, mile and a half, Dover. It's probably one of my favorite tracks. I love Dover, just because I like the tracks, Jamie, where you really got to work and practice and learn how to drive the car. They're hard to drive. I like the slippery tracks. I like the tracks where people are going to make mistakes and hurt themselves because that's where I feel like I can gain advantage. Not necessarily on speed. I just put in the time to get consistent to where I can handle my car lap after lap. And if you take it easy early on, you're going to be great later on. And that's why at Atlanta that you spoke on and showed the replays on there that I feel like I do well is I'll take it early in the runs. I take it really easy for the first 10 laps of a run, baby them tires for the first 10 laps, and then for the next 30 they're good to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm going to switch gears on you a little bit. Let's talk about point
All right.
standings, individual point standings and team standings. So, individual, after last night's race, you're up one spot. You're currently sixth in points, with several races already in, and there's only well, a few more races before we get to the chase, and so there's you're consistently climbing is what I'm getting at, and even though you've had some road bumps, you're still moving forward. You're still going up, and I think there's the only people in front of you, for full transparency, is Sean Butler, a teammate of yours, Jason Wells, Calvin, who you've mentioned already, Nelson Rivera, and John Frisching Jr. So from a individual standpoint, I think you're doing very well. From a team standpoint, you've got two of your team members in the top 10 here. And just I'm looking at some of your other teammates. You got Tim Lewis. He's currently tied for in 24th in points, and Will Long is in 22nd. So you guys kind of got half your team in the top 10 in points, and you got the other half of the team, speaking maybe in the lower 20s, which from a team standpoint might not be where you want to have them, but there's still plenty of time to recover here. What's your thoughts on that?
To be honest with you, I feel like those guys have had terrible luck. You know, poor Will Long, man. It seems like if somebody's going to wreck, they're going to catch Will Long up in it. You know, week to week. So hopefully he'll get rid of the bad juju, whatever's got him. You
Right.
know, just bad luck, really. You know, and Tim, you know, I know he's had some mechanical problems here lately. I think his throttle spring broke on him 2 weeks in a row, kind of like my screen did. So but he's also, you know, Tim's more than capable. You know, he's really a capable driver. He finished second at Martinsville, and you know he can win any one of these things on any days. He'll pop up here real soon and surprise you guys somewhere.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I I've raced with you guys over in Red Light a little while. Tim, I don't know if he had other things going on. I mean, he just what I'm getting at is he wasn't as dominant as at times. He kind of seemed to play more middle of the pack and here. But I've also seen the flip side of that. He's also had times where he's just real dominant. In fact, he's been real fast at some of these tracks, both in red light and over in the NAVSCAR league. And the question in my mind is similar to what we see in real life, where you've got a four-car team and one garage is doing good and the other garage isn't doing so good. Is there some team talks going on here to kind of equal it out or get these guys back up into the top 10?
Yeah, we definitely talk about it a lot, you know, and I think the main thing is with somebody with Tim is I put in, you know, double the time as him. He's a lot more busy than I am. You know, him and his wife like to go out on the weekends and boat and camp, and I'm not so much. I'm a homebody. You know, me and my wife like to sit around, watch TV, and do things on occasion. You know, we don't do a lot of traveling or anything like he does. I think if Tim could put in the time, he always says he's slow because he's old, but we know that ain't the case. You know, he spanked my butt a couple of times, so I know he's fast enough. I think it's just a matter of you know, if he's ever capable, able to put in enough time, Tim could be top five driver every week like the rest of us. You know, and then sometimes there'll be races to where people will show up at his house, and like I said, he's just a busy guy. You know, he has grandchildren and brothers and people that come by his house constantly. You know, so sometimes he has to leave. You know, understandably more
Yeah.
important, real life stuff is. So, but if he could put in the time, man, they'd have some trouble on their hands. And Will, kind of the same thing with him. You know, he works later, so I don't think he quite gets to put in the time that me and Sean do. You know, Sean gets off about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, so I'm home at that time, so we get to test a lot together, and it's showing up in the points, I think, and that's no ditch to those guys. It's just basically saying it's time. So for anybody out there listening, if you want to be faster, I'm not the fastest. I'm still putting in time to be like Calvin Allison and Sean Butler. But if you want to be faster, if you're running 35th or 15th every week, if you want to be faster, it takes time. You got to go out there and put it in. It sucks going out there and running laps by yourself, but that's what it takes, man.
So we'll come back to that in a second because that's been a topic in the garage here lately. But let's talk about a little bit about Sean Butler. When I first got introduced to Sean over in Red Light, I know he had been winning those series from time to time. And let me phrase that. It wasn't even time to time. I mean, he was doing back to back. Kind of reminds me of almost the Jimmy Johnson, if you will. I mean, he is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the exact number, but I believe he's in the 4 to 5 time Red Light League champion category. Correct me if I'm wrong, but
Yes, sir.
he definitely knows his way around the track.
Mm-hmm.
He's shown definitely the veteran characteristics in being able to help guys out. And I know he's personally helped me out in my own racing, just giving suggestions as to what we could do, and he's always been real dominant. But he had some frustrations the other night, and we're not trying to hide anything. I mean, I think there was frustrations from him and other drivers. Like you talked about, you're putting in 5 hours of driving every, when you get the chance before the race comes
Yes,
up.
sir.
We got some drivers, that just maybe due to their schedule, maybe it just doesn't work out, but they love racing, they want to get in there. But some of these tracks, with the track temperature going up, there's a little bit more emphasis on, because we used to run that, if you remember, we ran that colder temperature. And as a result, the car's stuck no matter where you were at. And now with a
Mm-hmm.
dynamic track, hotter temperatures, the cars just don't handle like they used to. And while you don't have the um, ability to adjust the car to compensate for that, you have to change your driving style. And we're seeing some drivers having some difficulties with that. Your thoughts?
Uh, it's it doesn't matter if the setup's just loose as crazy. If you get out there and just put the time in, you'll get better at the tracks and the setup. That's the main thing. It's the setup. They have to sum up a little loose, so as the tires wear, you can handle the car without it wanting to, go up and smack the wall every time because it's so tight. You couldn't slow it down if it wasn't loose early on. And
Hmm.
it just takes time. As far as Sean getting frustrated, that's just all of us, man. Jamie, you're just calm, cool, collect guys anybody want to meet. It seems like, but behind the wheel of one of these things, you're going to get frustrated.
Absolutely.
And that's just racing. He spouted off last night, and I think he should have kept it to himself. But hey, I've spouted off a few times. I think myself, I should have kept it to myself. So we all do it, and that's competitive. That shows you he's competitive. I like people with a little fire under them. You know what I mean? I
Yeah,
like that.
absolutely. And to be honest with you, I would actually expect it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I think it's one of the things that, the league admins are looking into, and not from a perspective of um, that there's anything wrong. It's just we know that that's going to happen. We expect it to happen, but it's like you kind of said. If you can leave it on the track, that's one thing. If you're carrying it with you, you got that chip on your shoulder week after week. Well, after a certain point, that becomes your problem. You know what I mean? It's
Hmm.
it's like
Yes,
if
absolutely. It'll affect you.
Absolutely, yeah, and and it affects the way you drive, and it affects how you drive with those around you. And I think
Yeah.
another thing, and then I'm going to switch gears on you, but you've probably heard this, but respect begets respect. Meaning, right? I mean, you got to give respect to get it. You don't get respect just by going out there, and just because you have a car just like everyone else doesn't mean that people race you the same. You've got to earn that respect in the garage when we're just in team speak and we're not even talking and out on the track. And sometimes you do have to let your driving speak to get you some of that respect. But I'm hoping that as time goes on, we're going to be able to see drivers really uh, take note of that and take it to heart.
I gotta, man, I gotta tell you, Jamie, I feel very fortunate in that respect that guys seem to really give me room on the track, and I do it for them. I think they know that, hey, if I let David go by here later on, if I'm faster, he's going to give it right back when I get to his bumper.
Yep.
And that goes a long way. Now, those same guys also know with 5 to go, I'm a different cat. You know what I mean? Now,
Right.
30 to go, it's a different ball game. But 5 to go, I think anybody out there is a line in a phone booth. You know what I mean? Just
Yeah,
just got it
absolutely.
pent up. And if you don't, you shouldn't be out there. We
Yep.
all drive a little different. I think I surprised some guys a couple of times on restarts with 10 to go, but hey, 10 to go, I'm as angry and want the lead as bad as anybody for sure.
Absolutely. So let's continue on a little bit more with the team talk. Right now, we've got several teams in the league. Insanely Fast Motorsports is currently sitting third in team points behind DPM, Dustin Phillips Motorsports, and Wow Racing. So, and then right behind you guys is Hooligan, just 3 points behind Hooligan Motorsports. So, um, TNT, High Rev, Haney Boys Racing, Team Commonwealth, not faring as well. Hooligan and TNT Motorsports are 33 and 23 respectively. Everybody else is in the mid to higher teens. So, with that being said, who's the team to beat?
Well, I mean, I guess you would have to say us or Hooligan, right? I mean, I got the most wins on the board, so I guess I would have to say them. I don't know, man. It's going to be hard to beat Calvin. Like I said, I'm trying to get some tips from that guy. I don't. It's hard to go as fast as you can, and another guy just blow you right by, and you're like, man, how do you get faster? So I guess I'd have to say Hooligan or IFM for sure.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
all those teams, man, got a lot of talent for sure.
Yeah, and it was good. It was good to see some teams form up. The current team leader with Dustin Phillips in Motorsports, Dustin's put a pretty good team together over there. James Skelton, Josh Buckley, and others. So, um, those guys are running pretty consistently, week in, week out. I know James is putting in that time. I'm probably going to be interviewing James here a little bit later on to get his thoughts on it. And but like you said, with some of these other drivers, they've also been caught up in incidents. I don't think anybody's an exception to that rule, or has been up to this point. So,
Hmm.
uh, yeah, that's it'll be interesting to see how it plays out, and it's always interesting to see how the team dynamics come into play when it comes to tracks, super speedways, Daytona, Talladega, like that. But we'll just have to see how it goes. So
Yeah, I tell you, Jamie, it's pretty awesome just to be mentioned in the same breath with those teams. That some good talent there. Skelton, Buckley, Fershing, Brian Wynn. Man, there's a lot of guys. Sorry if I forgot you, but there's a lot of good guys in those groups. So it's awesome for our team to be even mentioned there.
so what High Rev? Speaking of High Rev, Mike Abbott has recently brought on a real world sponsor to that car with I believe it's Bunny's Smoke Shop. Kind of interesting. Just curious. Any news from your garage as to bringing on any time or any real sponsors?
No, sir, not at the moment. But I tell you what, anybody out there that wants to, that may see the interview later on, feel free to contact IFM. We got a Facebook page on there. You guys are free to get on there and message. We'll message you right back real quick if you want to sponsor one of our guys for sure.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I've got the last thing I want to talk to you about was equipment. So I know IFM runs some pretty stout equipment compared to some of the other guys that are out on the field. Uh, can you give us a walkthrough what you got for a setup there?
It's just the fast setup, right? We don't talk about that stuff, Jamie. You know
Uh,
better than that.
yeah, we're not.
No, most people do kind of find it odd though that we have usually three Chevrolets and one Ford. We got Will Long loves his Fords, and I find it funny. Kind of give you some insight to. We messaged Will Long on Facebook. I messaged him personally and asked him if he would want to be a part of IFM. And he messaged me back. He said, "You guys run Chevys, right?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "No, man, I appreciate the opportunity, but I can't leave my Ford behind." So that ought to make some of you Ford fans pretty happy there. But so we wound up working it out, and everybody voted it was no big deal to have a Ford run with us. And matter of fact, Tim runs a Ford on occasion. So that gives you a little insight to equipment. Is that what you wanted, Jamie?
Well, not exactly. I was wondering if you were gonna speak to because we're always talking about it in the broadcast. We sent out a survey earlier, and we asked drivers,
Mm-hmm.
what were they running? Were they running the G27? Were they, what kind of wheel were they running? What kind of pedals were they running? Any special software? Something that they feel gives them a competitive edge out there. And if
Um, yeah, I run I actually just purchased $1,200. My wife wanted to kill me, but I just purchased a tech wheel here behind me. I don't know if you can see it too well. There you go. Can you see that?
oh yeah.
Yeah. So I just purchased that. I run Fana LEDs on it, Fana LEDs. Um, what is my dash program? It's called Dash Meter Pro, I believe, is the
Okay.
program I run there. And I feel like that helps me some. It gives me some fuel mileage, things. I can run 5 laps and it'll tell me, hey, this is how much you're using per lap. Then I can turn around and get to my human crew chief and tell him this is what I'm running per lap, and he can instantly give me an output of how many laps we can run. So that's pretty helpful program. Other than that, just stock G27 stuff.
Okay. Well, good deal. Again, like I said, we got Kansas coming up here shortly, um, next week. So hopefully you're getting plenty of practice time in. Sounds like you will be. And
Absolutely.
again, thanks for joining me on this one-on-one session, the first one, and we'll try to get more of them in here as we go on. So, thanks again, David.
Awesome, Jamie. Thanks a lot for letting me be your first one, man, and hopefully things go well for you, buddy. Thanks.
All right, appreciate it.